Okay, thank you, Aaron. You're super sweet. You're gonna make me blush. Yeah, so as Aaron said, this is Aprire I wrote when I'm in Italy now. So I wrote it when I came here outside of like academic spheres. I wanted to kind of find my voice away from influences that I had at university. So this is kind of like my first attempt to write something that was fully mine, because I used to kind of do a lot of kind of collage work and kind of word stealing. I'd read a lot of articles and things and then take words or phrases that I liked and then kind of make it into poetry. But this was kind of my first attempt at using just my voice and my words. So yeah, thank you so much, Aaron, for publishing it. Okay. Heard once about a man cut himself open to sag jaws. They say this: you are 2 moons full, and it's just a phase, book-walled like and tongued touch where the sound was meant to go, breathing witness-shaped body slates. Exhale, unassimilated intrusions are the sexy kind, muted. Stirrings fluidly, so fluidy, so much fluid, wet enough for mama pecs, and clean sides in case they ask. Something she might grow into. You don't have to say it that way. Do you say it that way of saying collarbones are for chumps anyway, of saying, is this expressive, wide enough staged in cardboard angles, last seen pouring herself through the cracks in their back teeth, a phantasmatic tracing told them. First, she crawled. Stuffing the mouth next was a purely aesthetic study, those bee-sting globs only palatable with speed, and you there, fisting gums, on knuckle pulp and echoes. In the gentler version, there are sister-shaped cotton lungs, and she calls it a verb and bullshit. Now this thing that you rest your wrists on is pink and squishy. Maybe there's something in that too. Grief ritualized, with this need to always be attached, asking, what color do you need to serve femme realness, to occupy space? Sick of awareness, afflicting your own by eating breakfast for lunch, again to fuck up the space-time continuum after correcting your tendency to put mums where they don't belong. Turn to astrology as a last resort for these ebbs and flows. It told you the stars, gave you a profound need for lists. Found a Medusa on the table that was too big for pockets. Ate day-long fruit all day for softer insides. Asked what it required. They replied, what? Made a general gesture of writing down the significance of that. Screamed her head into the world. At what point do we address the room feels more honest to hold her in paint? Rejecting displays of unresolved somethings. They express in our stomachs now. In jasmine corners, always swallowing. This is meant to be hopeful in a way, with the right standpoint. Told her you squeezed it right out without making us a striptease, except the clothes are wet and there aren't any clothes because we're naked and crying. Is this your way of forcing her into representation, lined transpersonal, a consequence of expressive limits and ambiguous bone structures, left cheek leaning more in your favor? Write a muscle right out like that. Let them think you've been chewing that biro. God, you are always chewing that biro like no one told you. Bread habitually sexed up like, of course, clumping involves sideways dips and canines, more stringy choreography. Imagine color, tact in the gaps you made. This was never a conversation for the woman who gave you pages, from spotty signal and pretend lingua deafness. Enter fleshy, rooms realistic enough for painting, nude voices, an entire veil, edible and hoarse, prophetic, advised to use prominences, skimming walls of noses, names, excessiveness, took notes on the one hand, defiled by eating pretty, if it counts, a waistband, in a chapter written on, what else other than reflex than breathing, extremities, white feet here, a distance away, imagining toughness, to recount the shape of a word, nip it quick and slow, a shredded utter, with the mask turned inwards to a human creature, seeping. They did half the rushing, creating a visual, but it's dense and chews like cardboard, sounded for sitting, post-roots, post-return. You're running on a bit now, in letter-shaped fingers, hammered. There's a start here, felt it pricked, went for it in the back seat, romantic like. God, God, oh, wanted for sure, oh, kept meaning to ask if lasers were involved, felt only pressed absence, neat. Smear me, like your smart screen, like you're losing air, and it's tucked away in my gullet. Something about awareness, of jaws, the propensity to expand, muscular only in aches, duck face fallacies, disrupting, wiry figurines, sleeping motions in pottery stillness, nestling human ridges between chemical peels and bus tickets just out of eyesight. I know now what happens when they give you language. Start sleeping sideways, wake up in bunches. That shirt was oversized for a reason. Perching on wood chips, nail beds gray, or they smell like they should be. An old solution, but it's rhythmic. And your body likes the inside sounds, wispy. A word I never gave you, something you'd expect, guessed my incense that I burned at all. It got embedded once, crackled at the pressure, the morning was blue. Told you what happens on rooftops, between inhales on tiptoes, how we rationalize forward, how it's awkward to tilt, how blisters are afterthoughts of big ideas. You stayed, half drawn, and I nearly bleached my hair. There's a train for this. I'm wearing that winter coat on it, pressing the button like bruises. Is it reasonable to empty you in cafes when no one ever asks to sit in that? An expectation peeled back that you'd taste the same. Was it borrowed in the end, remembered in song skips, and you counting Verona footsteps? The map was plastic, what I remember. Imagined you in greenish air, holding your breath. The next number emptied into it, a dead sound. A no today, in memory of that grey strand you tried to find because it was always literal, in lines as definition, yanked tight, millimeters in wrapped palms, repeating want with forgotten punctuation and open O's. There is so much that I understand about yellow, spilt innocuous behind my eyelids, still blinking. Got okay with the pressable parts, with the fur that wove chin tucks, girlish but still too full, got okay with the solidness of walls, with the tables too, that mix of cement and wood painted not white needed to grow up, and how many women does it take to wear down that leg? Your mind works. Our mind works in that way. You mind shadows and low-res suffering. It needs to hang in an interesting way, but first it needs to be written, typed, biological breath, points and pockets, understanding that to cut is to be plosive and breathless and squared away, but absent of gaps found in connectors, grasping out alphabetical. Give it a page, give it miles and miles. You cannot navigate shapes without space. We are without where we insist. We sit right in without middles, and someone will read you back to back. And they will want a separation, a mirror, a girl, and of you she had 3 to choose from, as you pick at excess, mouthing vulva in EDM patterns, and that Swiss Army knife dug up, popping eyes inscribed, a juddery voice whirling in acidic heaves, a phrase thrown to disturb, graduated pain, later caught with corduroy, pitched between knees. So you read essays and hand wash for the visceral. Chi trova un amico trova un tesoro. 2 years from now. Mitigate what you know. An alt opus you never danced, contemporary, but once you flooded a cinema and flew tears. And yet you stick needles, a stomach full, and say it out of love. And we will skip over canals, leapfrogging bold steps. It's bad luck, otherwise. kissing on the watery edge of tails. I needed a cord to unwind, to close my eyes, let the brickwork sand down the calluses. Yeah, those ones. Can only mumble on suitcases, how they will be bursting with big beans as I shake my wrist at posters that bloomed behind a sofa in faux leather. Bit saucy. If you were a jigsaw piece, you'd be the sky. Don't ask me if you're the corner. That requires the rest and eye contact, you see. Now we are climbing through windows with liquid muscles and teetering, flickering desktops singeing, eyeliner tips dripping chin length. A single point, and it is a stream. They keep asking you for a different tongue, and you bite it to double check, and all there is blood, and it's the same color, and still they will ask. Something has moved, you feel it. The windowsill caught your tights the same as always, before the scream was swallowed by letterless prayers, and the urge to run a finger down a wing, intersecting a false grief. It wasn't born here, but that balcony edge is where she died. They are hungry boys, uttering pleas for words on platters, on low sofas, toes snaked under shins, a bathroom full of houseplants, refracted murky as you search for the tissue, and blot at coffee stains collected in lip crevices, urging sound with little sense for shapes. It bubbles up, infuses with the chamomile tea, balancing on a kneecap. What will it take to speak a mind with strategic structures fluidly, existing in the transitions of these requests? That is to say, they come only after you. Ma ti senti aperta? Ti senti matta? She is searching for your equilibrium, and you are sure it has melted down into the hair, baby-like littering your chest. Broad you, little succubus of courage and absorber. How could you possibly expect to be led, confess, sing in erased poetics to stutter exits and moralize, and then they echo? The problem is that you are aware and you fear musicality that condenses, trivial really to rhyme organs that have a tendency to yelp like Morrissey, same font, buried in rucksacks. We won't tell him how, only that Top Gun's involved. And you endured box hair color smell to bundle a flight soap, a clothes set to the 80s, moonlit, mothering typings unchecked, but strong-armed by your benching to fever drums and coordination of thoughts. We're not even trying now, are we? Try saying funky, unironically. Set intentions listlessly. It's the whole vibe, and what's a mesh body time-lapsing all over this goddamn kids. Goddamn kids and their new age baby. He wants to be a bunny, baby, like you left them, believing as you conceived, bullet to-dos, in cafes with the wrong change. She is writhing, and the shapes in your hair are the reason why it took the cheekbones you used to write poetry on, fingernails in wood, dig. You are all caught up in blasé patterns, figure that they'll know. One blink, that print is porous, crooked in the right light. She'd missed your smell, she said, soft. Dazzle me. What I think when I think of loving, it is black and white and fairy lit and full of squared bookcases in your toes, peeping. Some you will not tell how long it took to wrap Patty around, how she is quilty, how she elbows out space in your lines with horses. There is a binding. It presses, colors swelling on eyelids. It has a name, but that is kind of heavy considering, don't you think? Chant it. You only inhaled it to breathe anyway. A pleasurable pause, tapping feet on platforms, a mind, a mouth. Thank you.